exploration resource for parents and educators, and through our interactive products and virtual interviews, kids and youth are able to see representation of their race and gender in career fields that they may not even know about. With every product we create, from our educational aids to our apparel and accessories, we are intentional about encouraging and helping kids and youth see that they can become anything they want to be. We are the only company who not only focuses on career exploration for kids and youth, but we also give them an opportunity to ask professionals about their careers every month during our free live virtual interviews as student co-hosts. If you are looking for a company that is dedicated to helping your child or student see that they can become anything they want to be, make sure you visit todayiwantobe.com today. Did you know you can promote your book on the next Authors Helping Authors web show? For more information, text AHA to 202-288-4467. That's 202-288-4467. Calling all authors and publishers. Did you know Everything Authors has a free downloadable directory of platforms you can promote your book on? No longer will you have to search multiple places to market your book because you can find them here. Download your list today at everythingauthors.com/free-resources. That's everythingauthors.com/free-resources.
When it comes to trauma, hardships, single motherhood, and grief, I'm very familiar with these experiences. By sharing my story about growing up with drug-addicted parents, then becoming a single mom and healing my childhood wounds and finding my voice, I hope to encourage young women to let them know that no matter what life throws at them, they can make it. You can purchase my pre-sale ebook on my website at www.tashamoneek.com. That's TASHAMONEEK.com.
Want to promote your book with Everything Authors on our web shows and social media pages just like these authors? For less than $9 a month, learn more at bit.ly/promote-on-web-show. That's bit.ly/promote-on-web-show.
My name is Qshebra Taylor, author of True Shades of Her, The Molding Matrimony of Healings, Expectations, and Realizations, book and workbook. On a day-to-day journey, we are faced with the fight of who we were destined to be, who we were groomed to be based on our upbringing, life experiences, and deciding who will win between the two. I wrote True Shades of Her after an almost mental breakdown. So after rediscovering me, I now have the opportunity to reintroduce, redefine, and reposition self for purpose. Through it all, the shaded places have prepared the destined and determined dreamer with the dignity to become the molding matrimony of power and purpose. The workbook will give you the opportunity to take notes of your journey, answer questions, and write down your life goals while re-evaluating her. Grab your copies today.
I can be a social worker. I can be a social worker. Yes, a social worker.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Authors Helping Authors. I'm your host, Martinique Brown. I'm so excited that you guys have decided to tune in to the show today. I'm really excited about our authors that's going to be here on the show talking to us about is it worth it? Authors who want to give up, but they didn't. I just love this topic because it's so encouraging. Regardless of whatever you're going through, whatever projects you're working on, there are so many times when you just want to give up. But these authors are here to encourage you today because you'll hear their stories about how they started with a thought, how they started with their book, and now they actually had that physical copy in their hand. So that means that they did not give up on writing their book. Make sure you go ahead and share this video now so that more people will know about our authors as well as their books and about the show in general. So now the great thing about this show is you don't have to Google anything. So for example, if you say to yourself, man, I'm telling you that Shandia girl, she got a good book. Let me Google her. You don't even have to Google her because all of her contact information is listed in that description box as well as her book purchasing link. So all you have to do is right there next to the $sign, you'll find all of the author's book purchasing link as well. So we just give you a taste of their book, but you can actually click on that link and read their book summary as well. So another great thing about this show is we like to make it interactive. So make sure that you post your questions and your comments, and I can actually relay those to our authors as well. So now if you're watching from any other page other than Martinique Y. Brown or Everything Authors, I just need you to come on over to one of those two pages and I will be able to see your questions and comments as well. Another thing, I want to give a hello to our viewers on YouTube. You can also post your questions there. You don't have to come on all the way over to the virtual world of Facebook. You can stay right there and post your questions there as well. So, authors, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having us. This is
You are
fantastic.
welcome. You
Thank
are
you.
welcome. So we're going to go ahead and start with you, Evelyn. Can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
I am Evelyn Whitney. This is the book Truth Speak: Some Real Reasons Men and Women Don't Communicate. I published this book in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually studied computer science, electrical engineering, and legal services. I've finished my business degree. And in all of those professional pursuits, writing was always in the background of my mind as something that I wanted to explore more thoroughly. So finally in 2016, I decided to publish my book, and I'm actually working on the second one as we speak.
That's good. That's good. So we can't wait to hear about it because I'm telling you, that communication has got us all wrapped up. We'd be like, you know what, forget it. Let me just walk out this room. I don't even feel like dealing with you right now. Oh, so now what about you, Qshebra? Can you tell us just a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
Yes, of course, my name is Qshebra Taylor. I am really from Mississippi. And the mother of five
So you
beautiful
breaking up
children
so
that
you
are
breaking
old.
up a little
So
bit,
I have been a
bro.
publisher since 2015. Was when I wrote my first book, and now I am now on.
So Tasha, if we can just hear from you, and can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
My name is Tasha Moneek. I have 3 children. My book just launched on April the 30th, and it's going to be releasing to Amazon on June 25th. And my book is called I Am Healed: How a Broken Woman Found Her Purpose.
That's good. I can't wait to hear more about your book as well. And what about you, Shonda? Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and how long you've been a published author?
Okay. Hi, I'm Shandia Little, and I'm a wife of 36 years to my husband and Pastor Donnie Little. I'm the co-founder of Divine Appointment Outreach. I'm a Gigi and the best-selling author of Quality Time with Little B. I have been an author since 2015, and it's just exciting. So
That's good. That's good. So, okay. So now, Shonda, when you say Gigi, I'm looking like, okay, I'm from Ohio. And so we had like Gigi's, I was thinking like a drill team. But when you say Gigi, do you mean a grandmother?
yes, I'm a Gigi. I'm a grandmother. I didn't want to be called grandmother.
I know that's
So
right.
it's Gigi.
Yeah. So my mom, she like, don't call me grandma, call me Grammy. I was like, okay. So now we'll start with you, Shonda. What kind of what genre of books do you write? And can you tell us a little bit more about your latest book?
Sure. I started out with pretty much fiction, with children's book, Quality Time with Little B, and Pumpkin Bee's Pigtails. Those books, the main characters, both my children. Pumpkin Bee's Pigtails is my daughter, is the main character, Deresma. And my Quality Time with Little B, it's really the type of book that it ends with the whole idea of spending quality time with your kid. It focuses around that. So, that's pretty much it.
But why did you feel the need to write a book like that? Because we have a lot of books out there, especially for kids, and they're teaching different things. But you are actually the first children's author that I have that is saying the main purpose of it is learning how to spend quality. Like, are you teaching both of us, like the child and the parent, how to spend quality time with each other?
Absolutely. I have a background in elementary education, and I taught in public school for years. So I've been on both ends. I'm the mom, the Gigi, and the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So I came from all those different areas in my writing. There's always an assignment in there to cater to the teacher and me.
Mhm.
There's always something in there to bring in the mom and the child. If you excite the child, then the child normally takes that material home and excite the home or the parents. So that quality time, when I mean by quality time, I mean uninterrupted time. It can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that no amount of time is quality as long as it's uninterrupted and you're focusing on the child and the reading.
Now that's kind of hard. Like your characters, what are they doing to spend quality time with each other? And the reason why I say that's hard because we gotta always have that background noise. You gotta have a TV on. You gotta have a radio.
Well, if we're trained to do that, but if you untrain yourself in the book, what in quality time with little B, the parents start out spending good quality time with little B and taking them to the ballpark and all of that. But then mom became super busy in the hive, if you will, working. She got a promotion, and dad got another promotion, so both parents were pulled away from the home, and little B found himself doing things alone. So the book talks about how little B starts rebelling in school, acting out in different areas of his life, and the parents realize that it's because they're not spending that quality time with little B.
So now does little B ever express why little B is a boy or girl? I'm sorry.
A boy.
Okay, so is little B ever expressing why he's doing this, or is it just the parents that figure out, like, man, maybe it's because?
Oh, he has a voice. Yes, he talks about it, and he's about it. He's being about it in the whole book because he starts to act out at school. And his whole behavior at school changes. His grades start to drop. As a teacher, I've seen this numerous of times.
Okay.
So I was able to write from experience. Many times children would not express in words what they will illustrate in their behaviors. They'll start to act it out, if you will. So a little bit starts to act out all of those behaviors about what's going on at home.
And what age group is this a good book for?
I would say at least the higher reader in first grade to third. Okay. So first grade to third graders, yes.
I think that's excellent. I'm serious. I mean, as many authors as I've interviewed, I've never heard the focus be on that quality time, with that child. And I think it's something that is overlooked so much, because I'm not a parent, but I know, like, sometimes when I'm around, I'm not gonna say it, but my nieces and nephews, I'll be like, I gotta go. Time to go. But I think that's so good that you wrote about that. And it's sad that we don't hear more books about that. Crazy. So now, what about you, Evelyn? What kind of books do you write? What genre of books do you write? And tell us a little bit about your latest book.
Much of the work that I have commit to projects is fiction, and there's some science fiction aspects, but this particular publication is a nonfiction work. And as I've shared, it's titled Truth Speak, Some Real Reasons That Men and Women Don't Communicate. There's a misconception that men and women can't communicate because of the differences in the way that men and women process information and how they relay their emotions. But those things should not be the impediments that they are. This book is a guide to walk people through how to dismantle those unconscious biases and get to the honest interchange of communication, particularly between men and women. Now, one of the things that makes this book different than some of the other books that have been written on the same topic is that this book is for men and women to read. Okay. Much of what I've seen on the market is specifically toward women, because it seems like the burden to maintain the relationship is put on the woman more so than it is the man. At the same time, people talk so much about relationships being a two-way street. So how does that work if it's really a two-way street when all the burden is on her?
Right.
This book is designed for both men and women to read. Not specifically just because it deals with men and women's experience, but because it walks people through their own biases and it shows them themselves and why they have difficulty receiving certain messages that are delivered to them at any given moment.
Hmm. So now let me ask you something, because some women may have, just that difficulty in saying, baby, let's read this book. I'm not trying to read that book. I think we communicate very well. What advice would you give that woman as to how to encourage him to read this book and maybe not hurt their feelings in that, we don't communicate that well.
If she's honest that there is a problem that they're having in their communication,
Hmm.
part of the issue has to be that he has to recognize that this is what she's seeing. And these types of things are the premises that are explored in the book, because it's not always the way that it appears just to one person.
Hmm.
Both people are in the relationship and both people have to work in order for the relationship to be substantive. So
Hmm.
if one person says that there's an issue, both people need to address what that issue is. And it doesn't matter which one of the two people say that this is a concern.
So now let me ask you this. We might have some viewers that's like, well, who is Evelyn? What gives her the right to teach me how to communicate? Like, talk to us about what gives you that authority to really just help people in, something that really a lot of people struggle with. I myself.
Absolutely. I've seen that question a lot. And the premise of my book comes from what I'm terming as common use definitions.
Okay.
And the difference between common use definitions and the things that we have available from the internet, from different research, and from things of that sort is that we have those things and we're still having problems.
Hmm.
So rather than dealing with certain theories as they're presented, I'm looking at how notions are practiced
Okay.
and where people are losing the translation between what the theory is supposed to be versus how they're implementing it. And the blend of those two things produces the most optimal communication interchange between men and women specifically.
That's good. That's good. So now, if you're interested in purchasing Evelyn's book or any of our other authors' book, make sure that you go to that description box, because right there next to the dollar sign, I'm just fair warning y'all, you new people. I say it a lot throughout the show, so you will not forget. But you can always purchase our author's book right there in the description box, and it's right there next to that dollar sign. So go ahead and click on that link right there as well. So now, what about you, Qshebra? What genre of books do you write? And can you tell us a little bit more about your book?
Yes, actually, the latest book that I wrote is pretty much a part two as far as autobiography. It's pretty much my journey, helps with leadership. It deals with identity, influence, impact. And so those are some of the things that I've actually had to deal with, being a mother of multiple children,
Okay.
and also having a background of abuse and just dealing with poverty and so many different other areas. So I wanted something that I could actually have to not just only look at the things that I've actually been through in life, but how could I actually take what I've actually gone through, help myself, and also help others as well. And so I believe these particular books I've actually used to, of course, with my journal writing, to actually write my freedom so I could actually help others to be free from anything that's in their past or anything that's holding them captive and stuck in, and stopping them from actually moving forward to the future.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that that's excellent. One of the questions that I do have for you, though, I know that you just mentioned abuse and things like that, but you also are teaching that leadership. Why would you want, because you do have, this leadership role and things like that, why do you want people to even know that chapter of your life? Because sometimes people can bring it up and bring it up, and you like, okay, that was my past. But now you put it in a book and people can always read it, and you always have to relive it when somebody brings it up.
Mainly because I realized that those things that I actually struggled with in my past were the things that I was actually going to have to share with others. And so I wanted to make sure, in order for me to be free and be in leadership roles and different things that I'm actually called to, and along with my purpose is always, whether it's in ministry or the marketplace, I'm always that leading leader. So I lead from the front. And so I'm always that person everyone have questions about, right? And so it was a lot of things that I was actually scared of because of the different types of abuse and different things that I actually went through, but I couldn't run from it. I was a daycare director in Memphis, Tennessee. And one year, all of my parents had dealt with some type of domestic abuse, assault. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't keep hiding from this. And so I realized that, you know what, the only way that I'm going to be able to be who I'm called to be is I have to own my story. That way, nobody else could actually make money off my story. If anybody will make money off of it, it'll be me because it's my story. And I can actually tell you the extras that's the part that everybody else don't tell you. I could actually tell it mainly because I'm free from it now. No one could hold that over my head.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So now I do want to give a shout out to Linda D. Johnson, who's tuning in, as well as we have Van and AJ. Make sure you guys go ahead and share this video now so that more people will know about our authors as well. I do want to just throw out there, Van says, speak Pastor Shandia Smith Little. Shonda didn't tell us she was a pastor. It's okay, Shonda. But Tasha, can you just go ahead and let us know what genre of book that you write? And can you tell us a little bit more about your latest book? It's on pre-sale, y'all.
Yes. My book is a memoir of my life, my childhood until adulthood, dealing with different things that I've dealt with in life so that I can help other women to overcome those obstacles as well and to heal from that. It's about me dealing with traumas, me dealing with being a single mother, grief, and things like that.
So now you speak about traumas, and you don't have to tell us the whole book, but you know, because we want to keep the element of suspense. But what is one of the traumas that you talk about in the book that maybe was kind of difficult and you was just like, nope, Jesus, I'm sorry, I can't put this in there?
Both of my parents were drug addicts, and they didn't get clean until I was an adult. So I was born, I wouldn't say I was born into it, but I've dealt with drug addicted parents most of my life.
And what
that was kind of tough.
What does that actually look like? You know, because I've been around alcoholic, but you know, I did have that opportunity to leave from their presence. What does that look like as a child having to grow up in that environment?
It was hard. I lived summer everywhere. So my parents would pop in and out my life. And so thank God I didn't have to go to foster care or anything, but I went from aunt's house to this friend's house. Like I was all over the place. So I was not stable at all. So they popped in and out of my life basically. My whole entire life.
And you can always say, Martinique, you know, look, I'm not trying to go there with you with this. But how did that affect your adult relationships and trusting people?
It affected it a lot. It was hard for me to trust because I lost the trust with my parents. So that has been something that I battled with being trusting, letting that wall down. Like I started going to therapy and I didn't realize that was the root issue to me trusting people. I thought it was just, going through different things, but that was the root issue because those were the two people who let me down first.
And what does your relationship with them look like now?
Well, they're both deceased. My mother passed away when I was an adult. My dad passed away when I was 17.
Okay.
But they were clean when they passed away.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So I know that there is a lot of times, that anger that can be towards somebody. What would you say to somebody that was still, and you can tell us or not, you forgave them, but what does that anger look like for somebody and maybe they didn't say, I'm sorry?
It's hard because you shut down your feelings. Like me, I shut down the communication with people. So I will be going through things people didn't know because me being so angry, I didn't want to share it with other people. So I just would say, I don't even know what to say. I guess I would say if you don't get that, forgive them for you, if nobody else. If you didn't get that sorry, in order for you to heal and live your life, if you don't forgive them, you're not going to be able to move on with life. Even if you never get that sorry ever, just forgive them, pray for them, and keep on moving.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Tasha. And praise God that you have, I'm serious, because I hear people's stories and things like that. And I don't want to start crying because
I know.
I've had my moment earlier today. But, you just got to really just thank God, because sometimes I look at kids and see like that environment they have to grow up in. And then I just wonder, like, what is their life going to be like? And I think I sometimes put myself in that mental space of like, man, they just going to be just like their parent. You know what I'm saying? So you really do give us that ray of hope,
Right.
that, and that's so good that you mentioned therapy, that you don't have to live through this alone and you can speak to somebody about it. So praise God for just delivering you and really just helping you along the way and being the woman that you are, writing a book and stuff. So that's a blessing in itself. So now, Shonda, what was one thing that happened to you that made you want to give up? And it doesn't have to be from writing altogether, but one thing that made you want to just give up and maybe writing this book or writing the other books? Because she wrote multiple books, y'all. If you go to her site, she got multiple. Okay, go ahead, Shonda.
My very first book, the company was a traditional company. It shut down. It had my book, and it was my very first book. I had no rights to it whatsoever at that moment in time, because they did everything from cover to, inside cover to cover. They had control of everything. And it was very discouraging with that being the very first book.
So now what happened? Did they just say, did they call you? Did they text you? Like, how did you even find out?
They called, they text, they emailed, they did it all, but only at the time when they shut down. It was no warning, nothing. I knew nothing until it was over. They were in the midst of shutting down. And then they sent me the formality saying, we'll release everything, just don't sue me.
How did you feel about that part? Please don't sue me.
I would have sued them. I would have been, but it was either sign and say, don't sue me, or have them hold on to my book, or pay all the legal fee. Yeah. So they, by signing, I won't sue you. And that really wasn't the form, but that's the gist of it, so I won't sue them. They released all the right, everything to me. So I have that today, in the copyright and everything.
So now, sometimes I wonder, it's like we can do all the research we can possibly do, and things like this still happen. How did you just pick yourself back up from that though? Because it's kind of like, well, now I gotta reach out to 10 people instead of like maybe the 3 people that companies that I tried to, work with. Like, how do you get yourself back into that mindset of like, keep going, Shonda, keep going, Pastor Shonda?
Definitely faith. Okay. When I started writing, it was therapeutic for me. We lost a son, our oldest son, and I wanted to build a legacy. So I used my writing in that first book and attached it to a scholarship, a merit scholarship in his name at the local college where, I graduated with my first degree in our hometown of North Carolina. So by attaching the scholarship to the writing, it gave it purpose, more purpose for me. And I realized my purpose and my passion collided enough to give me the strength to say they may have failed themselves, but I'm not a failure. I did my part. So my husband has been very supportive. So I had him cheering me on in the background, but it's very easy. Don't get me wrong, I cried a lot of tears because I thought I would never get it back. I didn't know the legalities of it. So
now, with that though, when you're doing such personal writings, do you recommend people put a purpose along with their writing so that when these hardships do come along, then it keeps them moving forward?
Absolutely. Because see, if you know your purpose, I knew, once again, I knew I was building something. Okay. And I'm still building something 6 books down the line.
Yeah.
And because of that incident with them taking the book, it was like they took a part of me, because a part of me goes into each book as any author. So it was beyond passion for me. It was a mission, so I fought back the best way I knew how by saying, this is not going to break me. I have to keep building. And I did, even when I had to throw out a few bricks. In other words, this didn't work, that didn't work, but I still kept building on and what I mean by building, I kept writing. I kept producing the books and seeking help, to produce them, because I did not know how.
That's good. That's good. So now what about you, Evelyn? What was one thing that happened to you that actually made you want to, just give up?
My experience is a little bit different than deciding to give up per se. For me, I couldn't get away from it. Of all of the different professional pursuits that I embarked upon, writing was always the one in the background. It was always what I relegated to being a hobby that I was always the most passionate about, while I'm pursuing careers out of all these other things: computer science, electrical engineering, nonprofit work, human resources, quality control, compliance, all of those types of things. None of that was, let me say that more positively. All of those things carried an interest for me, but I elevated that interest to career and put my passion for writing relegated down to hobby. And it was in those years that I actually wrote this book that switch took place, that I elevated my passion of writing to something that I want to pursue as a career. And all of those other things where I found genuine interest were expressed as the interest that they were, and perhaps no longer career pursuits, when my writing has always been what I was passionate about. So I never...
Go ahead. So you never what?
So I never felt like I needed to give up per se. It was just always in the background, and I just needed to bring it to the front.
What does that look like, though, when it comes to faith? Because that's a major step. And I don't know if you're saying like maybe you quit your jobs, or you was just like, look, I'm gonna have to only work like 20 hours with these other jobs, and I'm putting writing to the forefront. But what did that actually look like, literally?
Well, unfortunately, there is a way that a lot of people, they have careers and they have passions, and they haven't found a way to merge the two. The way that Miss Shandia was just talking about her experience bringing her to that point. I am at that point now where the things that I know that I enjoy doing, that are expressions of my writing ability, are put into career trajectories, I'll say. When I finished my business degree, I thought that working in the legal industry would be a perfect place for my analytical skills, my attention to detail, and the many other things that contribute toward my hobby of writing. And it does. So in some facets, the work that I do does satiate my desire to write. But at the same time, I know that ultimately the projects that I want to bring to screen, bring to other books, bring to TV, those are things that I haven't been able to put down, if you will. I haven't been able to put them far enough in the back that they leave me permanently. My writing is still the single thing that I have been the most consistently passionate about my entire life.
That's good. That's so good. And I can definitely attest to that, because I work so many jobs now. Don't let this young face fool you. I work so many jobs, and I'm like, Jesus, I can't. Like, what am I here to do? Like, it is just so frustrating. And so, man, that I really pray that people will really just find out like what God created them for. And I really just hope that they can also merge it into their career, because I just never want to be that person like, oh, I can't wait till Friday. Like, what am I living my life for? Exactly. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so, so I definitely hope our viewers are able to, put their passion into their career path as well. Now, what about you, Tasha? What is one thing that happened to you that made you actually want to give up?
When you're right, well, for me, it was me writing, of course, about my life. And as I was writing, things were coming reappearing that I didn't like remember. So the more I wrote, different things were popping up that I probably didn't want to like resurface those things. So it was time that I would have to take a couple days just, catch my breath. And like, I forgot that even happened, but because it was so traumatic, I had put it so far behind in my head that I'm like, but the more that I wrote, so many more things are coming up. And I'm like, this is a lot to have to, to retouch on painful things that I didn't want to bring up again. So that was something that I had to be like, you know what? You have to write this book because there's a lot of women who needs to hear your story so that way they can know that it's possible. You don't have to go down the same road as your parents. So that was something that was really tough with me revisiting some things that I had covered up mentally.
So does your book actually teach us how to move towards being delivered from those things, or is it just more so are we just reading your story?
No, it's my story, but also sharing how I started my healing process. It took a while for me to start the healing process because I was bitter, I was, angry, upset, but I had to repeat my own self and like I have to forgive them, not if not for anybody else, for my own healing. I had to let it go. Even though, of course, I love my parents, but I still was holding on to that. And the root of that was causing me all type of health issues, all type of friendships, like not trusting people. So I had to let that go in order for me to heal. I have children, so I didn't want them, they not necessarily dealing with the addiction, but they're dealing with the angry mother, a mother who's not happy. Like that's still not good. So I had to heal for myself and also my children. It was just a different form. Like I had to break that generational curse. Whether I wasn't doing drugs, but I still had some form of addiction, which was being mad all the time, being angry. So that was one of the reasons why I kind of almost, but I was like, I know I'd have been through a lot. So this little bit, me revisiting it, I can make it through this.
Now, since you brought up your kids, do you feel that it's necessary to talk to them about your past?
You know what? I just started recently. Like when my mom got clean, she got clean when I started having my kids. So they don't know that part of my mother. They know a little bit from her stories that she shared, before she passed away when she was clean. And then from a little bit of stories now, but now that they're older, I have a 21-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 13-year-old. So I do share snippets of it. I don't want to just dump it all on them, but they do know a little bit.
Yeah.
And my daughter always like, Mom, how did you go through all that? But that's something that God wanted me to do so that I could share my story with others.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's something that I talked to my mom about too, because she hopefully you're not watching, Mom, but she's like, it's some stuff she just won't share with me, and I'll be like, Mama, this helps me to understand you better. We need to get your book, Evelyn. But I think that I always want to hear the parents' stories just so I can have a better understanding of why my mom is the only one living, but why my parents act the way they do. You know what I'm saying? Because it helps me to have a little bit more compassion towards them. But that's why I asked you that question. Yes. But what about you, Qshebra? What was one thing that happened to you that actually made you want to just give up?
Wow. Actually, I was preparing to go through a divorce from a physical abusive ex-husband. And I received a phone call that my oldest child had been murdered.
Okay.
The 20. And that I just felt like somebody had literally cut my heart out of my body. Mm-hmm. I couldn't breathe. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I really wanted to, so during that time, it wasn't even about me helping others or me, getting what it is that I needed during the time. It was really hard to even, being in ministry, just doing so many different things. Mm-hmm. I'm excited, I'm ready. I was like, oh my gosh, soon as I say yes to this new journey of helping others be healed and delivered and set free, and this is what I get. So that for me was really, really hard. So hitting those at the same time, because they came back to back for me. So it was really hard to get through that particular time. Honestly, I used to think that I was not ever going to make it through that.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you something. I know that you mentioned that you're in ministry and things like that. With your divorce and your child getting murdered and things, was there ever a time that you were angry with God? And how did that, what did that look like?
Of course.
Uh-huh.
I realized, this is what I realized, because growing up in a traditional church, you would always hear them say, you don't question God. And, for me getting in ministry, I said, what kind of relationship is that? Mm-hmm. If I cannot ask any questions, even for me to learn how to sit down and hear, God speak back to me. Right. Mm-hmm. But yes, I was very angry with God. But one of the things that I realized was I did not trust God with my children like I thought I did.
What do you mean?
During that particular time, of course, I realized, because as I look back, there were years ago, I had the doctor to tell me that I'd never have any children. And so I know God blessed my womb for me to be able to have not one child, but actually 5. And my last 2 were actually fraternal twins. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that God actually trusted me. And so when that actually happened, of course, I prayed. My children were saved. They had been baptized. Like, I went through the whole journey. I was a Sunday school teacher, the daycare. Like, I'm a part of all of that, preaching, ministering, all of that. And so when my son actually transitioned, for me, I felt like God didn't protect him like I really wanted to. When I thought maybe him being a father in heaven, that God would actually allow him to have this purpose, in the earth, and he would get older than, the age of 20 and having to deal with that, because that was devastating, because I had lost a sister at the age of 20 as well, by 7 years before that. And so that was very devastating. And so, yes, and my truth, yes, I was very angry with God during that time.
So what's your relationship like now?
Oh, we're like thebomb.com, right? I mean, so God has actually been the only consistency in my life. Mm-hmm. The only consistency in my life. Even in the midst of it, I went through my moments. I had my ups and downs. I was actually isolated. I had to, be pulled back, because during this time, I'm learning more about myself. But the only way I can learn more about myself is learning more about who God is.
That's good.
And so that's
come on, Q. Girl, I done called you a nickname.
That's the way that I was able to find out more about who I was, because the book I'm writing is True Shades of Her. It's about healings, expectations, and realization. So I realized that God can still use me in the midst of me healing. My expectations were in the wrong place. I was no longer expecting anything from God. And also to face real stuff. Me being able to stand beside a bed and knowing that my son had transitioned, and I still have to smile and encourage individuals, but I yet love God, love Jesus with all my heart, and knew that I needed a therapist as well. Mm-hmm. And so, but understanding that my story still mattered, but I still had to push through and to get the healing that I needed to continue on the journey.
That's good. And you know what? I really have to be mindful of who I ask certain questions to. And I'm so thankful that I thank you for your transparency with that, because sometimes, it's like unbelievers will look at, sometimes Christians and say, oh man, you don't never go through anything. But no, you had this woman right here that, just expressed she was going through divorce, and her child died and things like that. And as a Christian myself, we do struggle with God, with the things that happen in our life, but like, that's why we still have to be asking God, like, God, please help me, because I have no idea. I don't even understand why you did this. And I encourage anybody out there that's not a believer in faith, if you need to reach out to me, or if you need to reach out to Pastor Shandia or Qshebra, just go ahead and DM us. It might go to that filter, but we're going to look there too. But I truly hope that you just find that relationship with God, because, and when I say God, I mean Jesus Christ. But, because he is the one that's really going to help you with anything that you're going through. Yes, things happen to us, but God is the one that is allowing you to go through it for a certain reason, and he's going to be the one to help you have a better understanding of how he can still get the glory in any difficulties that you go through, as well. So now, Tasha, did you specifically, just looking back through the things that you went through, do you feel like it's been worth it in writing your book still?
I definitely do. In those moments, I didn't understand. And like you said, I questioned God, like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? But now that I'm older, it's for a reason. It was I had to go through that so I could share my story to help someone else because they need it right now. There's so many women that's out here that's hurting right now that I just have a real sensitive heart to other women. Like I know how it feels to feel like you don't have nobody and you can't trust people or you can't go to nobody and share, things that you're going through. So I know that feeling when you feel alone, like nobody's there, even though people probably are there, but I just know how it feels to not to feel like you don't have anyone.
Mm-hmm. And let me ask you a really personal question. With everything that you've been through, did you ever feel like, you know what, I'm just gonna take my life?
Actually, I did. My dad committed suicide when I was 17. And
wow.
Then my mom when she got clean, she ended up getting cancer. And I lived here in Texas and I ended up moving back home to California. So when I went back home, at first I didn't want to go because I was being stubborn. But God knew that I needed to go for that last time because that last year, the cancer came back so fast. So I only had her 7 years of my life. So I felt like, why would you get her clean, give her to me, and then take her right back? All these years when I was a little girl, I begged, like I just wanted a mother. And then when I finally got her, she was snatched from me. So I'm like, and as a girl, that's all I prayed for was to be with my mom. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, so I was upset for a very long time. Like I was angry with God. Like all I wanted in my life, I didn't care about anything else. I just wanted a mother. As a woman or as a young girl, that's what they want, a mother. So when she got clean, it felt like, even though I'm grateful for those 7 years, that she didn't die in addiction, she was clean. But 7 years seemed like 7 minutes of my life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yes, I was very angry.
Yeah. And do you feel that because of that yearning you wanted for your mother, does that help you to be more intentional about being a better mother?
That is most definitely why I'm the way that I am with my children. I know how it feels to not have your parents. And I don't want my kids to ever feel like that. That's the worst feeling in the world, to be around people who, have their parents, but don't, some people are good, but then some people are not so good to you. Like I grew up where some people weren't good to me when I lived with them. So I never want my kids to ever say that they had to go live with that person, because my mom wasn't present. I don't care if we eating top ramen, hot dogs. They'll never have to say that.
Girl, that's some good stuff to get that chicken running the noodles.
Yeah.
But what about you, Evelyn? Just looking back over the things that you went through, just that tug with the career and the passion and things like that. Do you feel like it's been worth it for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have a quick story that I want to share with you guys on this. I have family in Hawaii. And once I flew over to visit them, when I was flying back to the mainland, we were on a jumbo jet. So there were 5 seats in the center aisle and 5 seats on the other aisle. I was in the middle of the middle row. So I know I'm not getting up. I am here. This is where I'm going to be for this flight. And that's just how it's going to be. So I put my earbuds in to listen to my music. I'm about to listen, go to sleep, and just fly. And that's just going to be how this flight goes. Once I got settled, I closed my eyes and watched a movie from top to bottom, characters, plot, scene, everything. And I knew that that movie had to be written. That movie had to come to fruition. That is, I mean, it was just like, I don't know how else to describe it, but other than to say I watched it from top to bottom, all in my head while I'm on this flight back to the mainland from Hawaii. And when that kind of thing happens, you recognize that it isn't just something that you are making yourself do,
Yeah.
something that you're responding to that is moving you forward. And you can't really put that down. You can't really put that aside. Now, the theme of that movie is still relevant, even though it was a number of years ago that this happened. But when it does come to fruition, I remember this quote that it was a conversation from Walt Disney. After he had passed away, his wife was interviewed by someone, and they were going on a tour of one of the Disneyland theme parks after it had opened. The person who was on the tour with Walt Disney's wife said, "I wish he had been alive to see this." The wife's answer was, "He did see it. That's why it's here."
That's good. That's
And
good.
with those movies that are in my head, ready to come to the screen
Yeah.
at some point, this first publication from start to finish, just the entire execution process. There's something there's something there's a sanctity to that process that keeps you moving forward.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to the rest of it.
That's good. That's good. Well, I definitely hope that you keep pushing on, regardless of what happens, because it's so amazing that, how God gives us things to do. And like when it does come to pass, you like, Jesus, little me, you gonna let me do this? It's so amazing how that works out. But what about you, Pastor Shonda? Just looking back through the things that you went through, do you feel like it's been worth it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I've learned from my experiences. So now I know the business of writing and publishing enough to appreciate the journey from the shutdown, the traditional printing company that shut down until now. Little B has flown through 5 years now. And the journey from there to here has made me a stronger person.
How do you learn to appreciate the journey when things are difficult?
Like I say, the experience when you can build upon, I'm a builder. So everything that I take in that I need, I keep it and I build upon it. Those things that I don't need, of course, I throw those out. And what I mean by that, if it's something that I'm not using, they tell us if you haven't worn something in your closet within a year, throw it out. Well, it's just going to become clutter in your head the same way. And that clutter can weigh you down and keep you from moving forward. Mental clutter is the same way. So I try to discard all those things that are going to cause me, that extra, that extra burden. And that makes it lighter. It makes my head lighter to write. I can think better when I don't have all of that stuff there. And what I mean by all that stuff there is that I don't regret, I regret doing this or I worry about that. Regret, worry, and all of that about what did happen. And I heard the word forgiveness, powerful, because I had to do a lot of forgiving along the 5 years. It seems like it's been a short while, but it's been a pretty long journey when you have to spend the money and the time and not get back what you think people, what you put into it. So you have to, there's something that happens from the inside out when you're writing. And I've heard that from everybody here. It's beyond a passion. It's like you were designed to do this, created to do it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
So now what about you, Qshebra? Just looking back over the things that you went through, did you feel like it's been worth it?
Yes, it actually, it has been worth it. It's been a lot and it's been a long journey, but it's actually been worth it. As I look at my girls, they have material that they don't have to go to anybody else to look and ask questions. I tell them I've been very transparent. Of course, they were looking at me like, "Mom, are you serious? You actually went through that?" Yes, I want you to know. I'm going to tell you my story. I want you to know this is the choice that I made. May not have been a good one, but this is actually what I learned. And so, like Miss Shonda mentioned, as far as legacy, I think about that as well, as far as my journey, because sometimes you have those moments when it's just not about the passion. You're like, okay, I need something extra, to pull me through. And I went through my son. It wasn't me looking at the children, because I was stuck in that particular place. So when I started looking at legacy and I started looking at the English teacher that I always wanted to be, me just putting my story in my own book, my own material, and they have something that they could always look forward to.
Yeah. And I have a question for you, specifically with, your story of being in an abusive relationship. Um, is the abuser one of your kids' father?
Actually, my children's father that wasn't the first abusive relationship that I was in.
So now how did you write in a way that maybe did not make them hate their dad?
I always taught my children, especially my girls, to honor their father. It didn't matter what we actually been through, what the experiences were. That was actually our experience, and so to teach them to always honor him, and regardless of whatever it is that we actually went through. And also, I wanted to make sure in my story that no one else was a bigger character than God. So I made sure that they were not that main character, or literally had given them a name where they become just that powerful person in my story. So no, I did not want to do that, because it was actually God that brought me through. And that's been that one that's been right there with me. But I always have taught my girls to be yet respectful and honorable to their father.
And when you write about somebody in your book, though, do you have to give them a heads up?
I didn't write about them in my book. I only shared my experience.
Okay. So, okay, Qshebra. Qshebra, we're gonna have to bring you on another show. But let me ask you this, Tasha: what support system do you have, or how did you stay motivated to keep going?
Well, I did a 90-day writing journey with two women who also are authors. So they were a very good support system for me. And then I have some of my friends and family was supportive as well during my writing journey.
So now, because your family, was there, they've been there through your whole life. Was there anything that was shocking to them?
To my kids or to my family?
Well,
both. Well, my family knows my journey, so I don't think it will be shocking, because they know the past, my past. So I don't think it will be shocking to them.
And the reason why I asked you that, because you're putting your perspective on it. So like sometimes, family members will not ask those certain questions because maybe they just don't want to bring it up. They don't want to have you relive it. So was there anything that you shared, that maybe, shocked them, like, man, I didn't even know that, Tasha?
It probably is going to be some stuff in there that people didn't know.
Okay. All right. So family members of Tasha, as well as our now friends of Tasha, make sure you go to that description box and make sure you check out just a book summary of Tasha's book, as well as our other authors' books as well. Like I said, right there in that description box. And also make sure you continue to share this video so that more people will know about our authors, as well as their books as well. So now, Shonda, what did your support system actually look like, and how did you stay motivated?
My husband has been there since day one. And the motivation, again, I use the word legacy a lot, because after losing our son at 19, the whole merit scholarship in his name, I could not drop that after year one. So I attached the books, and we just did a whole organization. We did the scholarship and all of that. It motivated me because it was therapy for me, but I was also giving back to our community and hometown and home state. So it's like I had people depending on me to follow through. So I was being held accountable by so many different things. And not to mention, sometimes I don't tell people I'm a pastor right up front, because people, I wait, there eventually it comes out. There's no way of hiding it. But what I'm trying to say is, I think your character speaks for you, even when you're not talking.
Yeah.
You can say nothing and be in a room, and it'll speak for you. Your character, your everything about you says what you're about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's true because sometimes like when they hear that, they like, oh, that mean I can't be as open and honest as I want to. Like, no, like just stop it. You can still be open and honest. But now what about you, Qshebra? What support system do you have and how did you stay motivated?
Actually, coming to another state was very challenging. So none of my family was in Georgia. And so what God did is God actually gave me a new family. And so I had friends who were on, an unfamiliar journey. God sent them to an unfamiliar place. They had no clue what was going to happen, what they had to go through. So our stories were similar in reference to our relationship with God. And so they were actually there with me. They loved me, supported me, and also outside of God was my therapist. Oh my gosh. He was the father that I've never had, someone who actually walked with me. He was actually one of my professors in college. And I just believe that God actually allowed him to be equipped with what it is that I needed to help love me back to life. And so he was ready whenever I was ready. He told me I was going to go through some things and had to go back and relive some things. And I told him, hey, wait a minute, let me think about it. I'll come back. And so I went back a little bit after that. But that has been my motivation as far as my family and, the individuals that God actually put in my life.
Yeah. That's excellent. I think that is so good that you kept that relationship, with your professor, because I'm telling you, I was begging my professor, like, please give me a C in this class. That's how our relationship was. But now, what about you, Evelyn? What did your support system look like, and how did you stay motivated?
As I had mentioned before, I've been writing my entire life, but the issue was to elevate it to the passion that it was versus keeping it relegated to a hobby and behind all of these other career pursuits. Most of the people in my family were well aware of my passion for writing. So while I'm creating my own stories from the cartoon characters that I'm watching, they're supporting that. When I'm writing my own books and illustrating them up through grade school, they're supporting that. And when I finally got to the point where I was speaking a lot to the people around me about how passionate I was for writing, it surprised me that
Yeah.
the people that I went to church with were the most discouraging. One of the things that I
Don't
was
tell us that.
well, here's the whole full circle of it. One of the things that I was using my stories to do was to illustrate certain premises without naming people who were dealing with those issues. So I had to say that the story was fiction because I'm not talking about a real group of people. I'm talking about principles. I'm talking about concepts. I'm talking about notions. Those are the things that I'm trying to isolate and illustrate and put those in a way that make it more digestible for people. But because there were those who got stuck on the idea that the stories were fiction, they didn't really support my endeavors and my passion for it. And that was an interesting experience because I knew that the things that I wanted to say, the things that I wanted to share, the way that I wanted to present this material was substantive. There was fact in it, there was truth in it, but that small thing was very difficult for some people that were in my society at that point to get over. And I really had to decide, am I going to yield to this influence, or am I going to continue with the substance that I know has been revealed to me and put it in this way that other people can be reached by it? So I know that it's very difficult to hear in some situations that your church may not be supportive of you, but that has it's the value of knowing that is that when people go to certain churches and they don't have the strengthening experiences that you guys are talking about, that doesn't mean that God has abandoned them. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them, that they're not experiencing church the way that most people do. Because sometimes there are things that God needs to tell specific individuals that other people may not need to be privy to in that moment. Like Joseph, we know he had the dream. When he told his brothers, everything got out of control.
Yeah.
So sometimes when God has something for you, it's just where you are supposed to walk with him in that moment. And when he reveals it, that's when they'll see.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that reminder. You know that it can be sometimes it can be your own family that's taking your coat, mad that you got the rainbow coat. You know, but I'm really glad that you brought that up though, because you know everybody is not gonna pat you on your back, regardless if
That's right.
it's you know, Christians, non-Christians, family members, friends, things like that. But if you know that that God has told you to do something, I encourage you to go ahead and do that thing. So now, what about you, Tasha? What is one thing that you actually learned about yourself during this process of becoming a published author?
One thing that I learned to let go. I had to let go of a lot of things in order for me to truly, truly heal. And that's it.
Let go of what though? Like,
Let go of my past traumas. I can't hold on to that into my adulthood because what's done in the past is already done. Me keep reliving it in my head is not going to change anything. It happened. Now let
what
it
do
go.
you do though? What do you do though? What do you do though when those thoughts when you keep thinking about those things? Do you have to go exercise? Do you have to go do a hobby? Like,
I have to pray, honestly.
Okay.
Prayer is and read my Bible and looking at the positive things of everything. Like I can't keep reliving that because when I do that, it makes you depressed. It makes you just stuck in that moment. And it's already done. I can't change it. I can't do anything different as of right now today.
Yeah. But I just wanna, don't you think that's kind of like contradictive of like you don't want to relive it, but you wrote about it and you
Right. But
had
I'm
to
saying
relive it.
I had to relive it in the book, but as far as waking up every day and thinking about, oh, I was at this house, that house, reliving it every day, it's a waste of time.
I got you.
Like, there's no need to keep. Yes, of course, I'm gonna keep talking about it because I wrote about it, and then I'm gonna have women that I speak to regarding it. But as far as waking up thinking about, oh, well, my parents was on drugs my whole life, I didn't have them here. Like, there's no need to keep reliving that because right now I'm good. Like, I got a house, I got food, I got a roof over my head. I'm not a drug addict. I didn't follow down their same path. I have my children that I take care of. So I think I made it out pretty good, regardless.
And you look good too. But let me ask you this: do you, for those people that maybe had your same experience, do you feel like as time goes on, it gets better for you?
Yes, I'm not gonna say you're gonna wake up and not and be 101 because I'm 40 and it took me a while. So I'm gonna say it takes time and you have to really dig deep, seek therapy, seek God on this journey. Like it does not go away. As much as a young adult, I always been like, oh, I'm not gonna think about it, and then something would happen, and then like you said, that thought would come back up about, well, why me? Why me? But now I'm just like, I had to go through that for a reason. That's why it was me.
Yeah, that's good. So now what about you, Shonda? What is one thing that you learned about yourself during this process of becoming a published author? One thing that like surprised you?
Wow. I think the most surprising thing was that I became more patient. And we say the word patient, we think of going through a lot of things at once, and that's what happened. It allowed me, again, I'm going to use the word forgiving. You have to be forgiving, but then you have to have, I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself. You have to remember what caused that pain to start with. That's what I'm saying. And what I mean by pain, when the book was taken, the first one, I made sure that I learned how not to let that happen again. You see what I mean? So experience taught me how to, trust, but verify.
Yeah.
Keep building, but, make sure that, when you pick that brick up while you're building, and what I mean by brick, just metaphorically speaking, those people you're doing business with understand what they're bringing to the table. Right. Because sometimes they'll come to teach you, but sometimes they'll come to take what they, you pay them, that's it. So I became wiser. I'm very meek, but it really, that meekness is not a weakness as it was 5 years ago in the publishing and writing process.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that may make people afraid about doing different things that they've never done before. They like, oh, I don't want to mess up. But when you mess up, that's how you learn for the next time, and so it's okay to mess up. You are going to mess up. You have to be okay with that. But shame on them the first time, shame on you if it happened again, because you learned, and so like Shandia said, you are going to learn through this process. You're going to learn what you need to do, what you don't need to do, and things like that. And you're going to learn so much about yourself and learn that you can accomplish this, but that's a different show. But Evelyn, what is one thing that you learned about yourself that was surprising to you during this process of becoming a published author?
There are several ways I could address that question, but one of the things that I learned, it didn't necessarily surprise me, but I really understood that growth as a process is expansive. It's almost like when you feel like, for example, if you feel like, okay, Lord, I need more patience, you might have an increase in patience in one area, and then 5 years happens, and then you have increase in patience, and patience keeps growing, and then the patience keeps growing, and then whatever trait that is, it continues to grow. So growth as a concept is expansive. Most people don't generally grow all in every factor of their lives at the same time. Right. And even after you do have these growth situations, the furthering that you grow in is still an expansion of areas where you've grown before. So it's almost like the bud is the first part, and then the flower, and then the full bloom. And that happens in various characteristics that you have in expansive manifestations. That's the word that I was looking for.
Do you feel that that's happened to you though? You grew?
Yes, I was just about to say that. I was just about to say that with the work on this particular book, I had been going through a difficult situation that resulted in a separation from the company that I worked for at that time. And it was a nonprofit, it was religious, and there were a lot of questions that were surrounding the whole situation. I well knew that I was resilient, but that situation magnified how resilient I could be drawn to be. Whereas finishing a book during that type of turmoil was its own reward.
That's good. That's
and
good.
That is one of the ways that I saw myself grow up through the process of becoming a published author.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So now what about you, Qshebra? What is one thing that you learned about yourself that maybe was surprising to you during your process of becoming a published author?
Well, I could actually say my creativity. I've always been one who was, of course, a visionary. And so I could actually have certain conversations with individuals and could actually see what it is that they were saying to me. But because of some of the things that I went through, I struggled to see things for myself. And so when I began to get downloads in reference to, my book, I began to start seeing covers and different things. So I wanted to pay someone to do my book for me. And God actually reminded me of that little English teacher that I wanted to be, when I was actually younger. So I trusted him as far as the gifts. And when I tell you, I learned so much in reference to my creative side. I thought maybe I had to go to school for. I had to pay somebody else to do. And God just reminded me those things that you need are already inside of you. All you have to do is open them up. You just unwrap that gift. Yeah. And so I learned so much more about my creative abilities just by becoming an author.
That's good. That's good. That's excellent. And I definitely appreciate you, ladies, for just being on the show. And I just love this show just because, you know, so many times we'll see authors' book covers and we don't know anything about the author, you know, but you all have really just let us into your life, into your personal stories. And now we have so much, we have just a better understanding of why you wrote your book as well. I thank you all, the viewers, for tuning in to another episode of Authors Helping Authors. I always tell our viewers that, you know, you don't have to wait till Christmas to purchase a book. You don't have to wait till Christmas to purchase somebody else a book. If you feel that their stories will really just help somebody else in their life, maybe a family member or a friend or a coworker, you know, make sure that you go to that description box right there next to that $sign, click on that link, and you can actually read their book summary because these books will definitely bless your life or their life as well, because you do know our author stories a lot more. Make sure you also follow these authors on their social media handle because, you know, the world is opening back up. You know, they might be in your city for a book tour, or, you know, they're always working on different projects. I'm telling you, like Tasha, we know Tasha ain't done writing. So we know she's going to have another book. We know that our other authors are always working on different projects as well. So you want to make sure that you stay in the loop of these authors as well. If you're interested in never missing a show, go all the way down to the bottom of the description box, and you can also follow everything authors on our social media handles. Like I said before, make sure you continue to share this video so that more people will know about our authors and their books. And we definitely hope that you guys have a great remainder of the night, and we will talk to you all later. Bye-bye.